Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
This live
Are you
talk.
ready?
Live
Are you
talk.
ready?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready? All right, greetings and welcome to Live Talk. I am your host, Arthur Jeremiah, and today I have two special guests in the studio. One is a brother that was with us last week, Brother Yikat Zekia. He's a scholar and a minister. So I want to welcome you to the show, my brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And again, I have one of my dearest, Miss Finance Pro. I'll be welcoming to the show as well. She's learned in finances, also tax accountant, and she's also a mortgage broker. So welcome to the show, Miss Finance Pro.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed. And before we get into anything, our pleasantries, we're going to go to our general statement and our disclaimer. General statement. Live Talk is proudly powered by TBS Goodwill, Builders of the Highway Foundation, and Men of Purpose. Together, we're bringing about awareness to the everyday challenges facing individuals, communities, and our nation. We tell our stories, listen to yours, and always respect different perspectives. Want to share your voice? Email us at livetalkorl@gmail.com to be a guest, or if you would like to contribute to our mission, purpose, go to livetalkorl.com to give a donation. Disclaimer. Information provided during this event and others to come does not constitute the official opinion of Live Talk or its affiliate entities. It is strongly recommended that viewers seek independent expert advice regarding any topics discussed, as legal requirements differ significantly across jurisdictions and are subject to frequent changes. If you have questions or concerns, you can always email us at livetalkorl@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Facebook and or Instagram at Live Talk Orlando. All right, so welcome. You know, it's always important to get that out of the way, our disclaimer, because it's very significant to the part of our program when we talk about different topics. We want to make sure that people understand that we have a disclaimer in this statement, a general statement in place. But getting back to both of you, you know, I didn't set it off properly, so let's give you an applause. Welcome to the show, and I appreciate you coming on to the show. And as you can see, my audience really enjoy you coming on to the show. Well, first and foremost, how are you two? Starting with you, Ms. Finance Pro, how you doing?
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Delighted to be on the podcast with you all today. And I'm looking forward to this discussion.
All right. And Zeke, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing awesome. You know, just daily elevation.
Yes, sir. Indeed. And I say myself, I'm doing well, and I'm feeling real good about the program today. And I can't wait to get into our discussion today. But before we do that, let us give a rundown to our family and our listeners of our show today. And again, just to let the family know, I am doing 2 or 3 duties today. So definitely bear with me, because we want to make sure that the program goes smoothly. So if you're coming on through either our Zoom platform, just come on and mute yourself. And if you're, of course, if you chiming in via Facebook or YouTube, we appreciate you as well. And you can always chat, send us a chat as we have our conversation today. But let's give a quick rundown of the show today. First, we have a word of today. My brother Ezekiel will be assisting us with that. Right after that, we'll go to a short commercial break. And then our main topic when we come back will be how consumerism shapes our minds, relationships, and the community. We'll then go to another commercial break, and we'll come back and we'll get ready to close out. We'll have a reading a quote from the host, and that's pretty much our show for today. So getting right into it with no further ado, Ezekiel, brother, what is the word of today?
The word will be farsighted. The denotation of that term is to plan prudently for the future. So that's what we need to do as a people. The word plan means a method, scheme, or program thought out beforehand to achieve an objective. Program means an ordered list of events to occur. So that means you have to create you a schedule in order to be able to have or reach your goal. So it's like a blueprint. Nobody builds any type of architectural structure without a blueprint first. So you want to have a blueprint for your daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly lives, because that's what the future is.
And that word was foresight?
Farsighted.
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 Okay. Well, that's...
It actually is perfect with the topic of discussion, because consumerism consists of a lot of that for pre-planning.
So let's make sure that we keep that in mind. I always like to have our word of today, something that we always focus on. And I do appreciate, thank you for that word of today. And we will go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with our main topic for today. So we'll go to a commercial break at this moment.
Because Scott & Associates always treats me like family, I refer my family to them. So when preparing for my taxes and I know exactly what to bring in coming in, it makes the process so much easier. Anyone should hire Scott & Associates because they are professional, respectful, and very knowledgeable. And with all of my heart, I can always count on them.
All right, so welcome back. This is that time of the year, where they shoot so many different commercials at us, right? Back to back, and people are spending money like it's going out of style, right?
Oh, absolutely. They say it's the most wonderful time
of the year, right?
Yeah.
So we had Halloween, Thanksgiving, and soon Christmas, and then we have New Year's that's coming up. Now, they anticipate that the so-called black people have a spending, they said that the so-called black people have a spending power of $1.8 trillion. Now, this up from a prior year of 1.6. So it's like we're growing as far as resources that we have to contribute to society, but we are unconscious of what we're putting that money at. And we oftentimes talk about our issues and our problems. But it seems like based off of, the spending, power that we have, it seems like we can pretty much take care of a lot of our problems and a lot of our issues.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to just consumerism and spending, that is something that happens, regardless of color, culture. Consumerism is for everybody and affects everybody. However, with the black man, predominantly even just people of color, we can say, our problem when it comes to consumerism is just like anything. Too much of anything isn't good for you. There's just no balance. You tend to find balance in other cultures. Why is it that the person that spends the most owns the least in terms of assets and wealth? So that's a deeper psychological discussion that I hope we get to have when we talk and touch on the point of consumerism.
Well, to that point, we look at, a number of things when it comes to the mindset. The mindset is the first part of that, because you said a key word, psychological. So we're dealing with the mind when we're talking about how does that affect us emotionally? How does it affect us, with the rise of materialism? Every year there's a different gadget that they bring out. There's something that they're promoting different from the year prior.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times we want to get our hands on these things, but we already have a lot of stuff, you know, and even with the technology that we may currently have, that technology works for what we need to get done. It's the glamour of society and how they
having the latest and the greatest.
Promote these items. We just need to have our hands on it.
Yeah.
How you think, and I'll start with you too, because he's gonna get you into here. How you think that compares to how does that link to our anxiety and how does it affect us mentally when it comes to these type of things like, you know, consumerism and materialism? And before you go, I want to just mention one thing, because when we talk about materialism, I want to share the definition of that because I feel like this is so powerful. And let me see if I can pull that up real fast. So materialism, preoccupation with or emphasis on material objects, comforts, and considerations with a disinterest in or rejection of spiritual, intellectual, or cultural values, interest in and desires for money, possessions, etc., rather than spiritual or ethical values. So mentally, how do you think that affects us when it comes to, you know, consumerism and how we engage into materialistic things?
The mindset that we were raised in under the value system of America, when we got free from slavery, we had nothing. So the mentality was you had to purchase everything that you wanted. So this is where the consumer mentality was birthed at. And through the generations, it was passed down. So long as you have a value system that's based on my worth is based on what I have. So this is why we want the latest fashions, the latest cars, and all the materialistic things. And when you have that type of mindset right there, it causes you to put that as the paramount and principal thing that you're trying to acquire on a daily basis. So therefore, the spiritual, the ethical, or the moral mentality goes out the door, especially if you don't have the necessary funds to be able to accumulate the materialism. You're not going to do it on a more value system, and this is why the illegal activities are so affluent in our communities. So when you have that mindset right there, then it becomes all consuming, and this is why we have to have it. And at this particular time of the year, you know, it's gift giving season, so everybody was willing to go into debt just to be able to get the latest gifts to give to the people that have the fashion. You know, you see babies, 1 year old, 2 year olds walk around with $80, $90 Nikes on, which is illogical to me. So we have that consumer mindset. Like you said, we're bringing in almost $8 trillion. If we had a producing mentality, then we could be one of the richest countries on the earth as the so-called Black people of America. And it's tied to our emotions. If we don't have the latest gift, we feel down. We feel on the bottom. So we use the materialism as a status symbol. So when I have the latest gear on, I'm driving the flashiest car, it builds up my self-confidence. It builds up my self-worth. So now who and what I am is beginning to be tied to the materialistic possessions that I have. And I'm willing to rob, steal, and kill for this right here to upgrade my status in my community.
Ain't that something? So I like that angle. But in everything, right, there's always pros and cons. So I want to kind of just reflect on, you know, some of the pros and even take some of the historical, going back to our history, tracing back even before we came here. But before I do that, we gave the definition of materialism. However, consumerism is the social and economic order that encourages the acquisition of goods and services in ever increasing amounts. So the issue with consumerism happens when we overindulge. Now, people of color, but especially the Black man, When we truly look at our history before the enslavement, before we turned our backs on who we served, we were wealthy. The fact that we love nice things, we have to remember that we've always been the blueprint when it has come to style and fashion, just how we carry ourselves. I mean, when you look just even at the motherland, you see the different patterns in the clothing, the colors, the styles of the beads, the gold. Who wore gold before us? Gold was on our head, it's on our crowns. We wore earrings. Males were known, and thick chains. They still portray themselves to that day. So when it comes to having nice things, which is a form of, consumerism, it actually can increase the quality of life because we are who we are. So when it comes to looking nice and being fashionable, we did it and we do it when we don't have money and we do it when we do have money because it's just who we are. So we can still embrace it. I think the problem is that, we support a lot of labels that don't support us. Look good, but it don't have to be a Gucci shirt. Invest in us and our brand because, as long as we're wearing it, it's going to look good regardless. Or overindulge in assets that maintain their value. Because if I see a person of color wearing a lot of jewelry, it doesn't bother me. Yes, you're over consuming, but that gold on your neck is worth something. So if you're going to over consume and have a lot of jewelry, at least you have some true wealth that you can pass along to your next generation, because there's not any wealth in, the clothing and the labels and things like that. And then I guess I'll put a pause because we know I can be long-winded and I can talk on different aspects when it comes to consumerism.
No, I appreciate when we come from different perspectives, and then I like to see both sides of it.
Yeah.
And to your point, we have always been rich-minded people. We always, when it comes to material, we love the finest.
We do.
We
it's
like
who
the
we are.
best. But one of the things that we have noticed here, and that's why we're talking about the mindset part, and it goes back to what Ezekiel talking about. See, our mindset has been twisted.
Yeah.
Whereas, yes, we do love the finer things, but we tend to spend our money outside of even our community where we can possibly get the finer things, because we have small businesses within our community that we can invest in. But if everything goes outside of our community, then what happens to the community?
Right. what we've witnessed, we've witnessed, because, with consumerism itself, it's us looking for that higher quality of life, especially with our parents and our grandparents, who were the trailblazers and had to fight for equality in this country. The second we got our hands on some money, we brought Cadillacs. Right. We saved the Cadillac industry. Mm-hmm. We started investing in the nice things that we never got to have. And that is in the pursuit of happiness. Psychologically, we think that, hey, if I buy more stuff, this is going to make me happy. And a lot of times, especially during times like this, because it's so much of a push for the holidays and a push for Christmas, it can be a double-edged sword. Some people are extremely under an illusion of happiness due to consumerism, while some people are absolutely depressed and may end up taking their lives, again, due to consumerism and the inability to participate.
That's true. I could go back and I talk about some stories. And if we get into the conversation, I may be able to share some of those. But you brought up advertisement. So I want to ask the question, how does advertising manipulates desires and distorts self-worth? Which one do y'all want to go? Go ahead.
I'll let my brother take it.
You have companies They're higher psychologists,
Yeah.
and they study the mind. And they would spend billions of dollars on a commercial. You take the Super Bowl, for example. These people spend millions of dollars for a 20 to 30-second commercial. And it's not targeting your conscious mind, it's targeting your subconscious mind. So that seed begins to grow, and then at a later date, when you see that particular product on the shelf, your mind will automatically spring up that commercial, and you'll end up buying that product without being conscious of why you even purchased this particular product. So what they're doing is they're playing on the mind. They study the brain. They understand how it operates. They understand how it creates and forms thoughts and habits. So therefore, that's what they target. They have a particular demographic that they go after when they produce a particular product. And then they flood you with this particular product to make you think this is what needed. So they may put a superstar, entertainer, or athlete on that particular product to make you think, I gotta be like Mike, so I need some Jordans. Some Pro Kids on. I need the Jordans. So it's developing the mindset that, hey, I have to have this particular product that Nike produces. Instead of saying, okay, let's get the money together in our community and let's go buy that same cow that gives his hide to Nike, and we can put our name on that cow and sell it to our people at a reasonable price to where they don't go in debt purchasing this product and then work all year to try to get out of that right there. So it's who is shaping and influencing the mind. And then you got to look at the so-called black man. Our children watch more TV than any other culture. So how many commercials during the day are they seeing with this thought being placed into their head? So now they mama, daddy, I need to have this, because I want to be able to fit in. This is my status. So they're attacking our minds, and they understand you are what you think. So if they can place a product in your mind and that's what you're thinking about, and that's what you're going to be producing, and that's why you're going to be the biggest consumers on the planet. You're never going to have a mindset to where you become a producer. You're going to always sit back and wait on somebody else to create the latest fashion, and then you're going to try to smoke that.
Very true. You know, the saying too, that you are what you see. I believe there's a saying like that. And so with us and even our children, you know, psychologically, it's easy to understand how we've become the bigger or biggest consumers, right? Because we don't put our noses in books.
That's true.
We put our noses, you know, in phones. We put our noses in front of the TV and laptops and tablets. And all of these things are now smart devices. Our refrigerator is smart. You know, it listens to the conversations. It picks up on things. And so it's targeted marketing now. Our technology today has an understanding of what our likes are. And so with social media and within the feeds, if you just so happen to say, oh my gosh, I lost a pair of diamond earrings. I can't find my other pair of diamond earrings. And that's all you have to say.
That little smart device listening to you.
And then the next thing you know, you go on social media and Macy's and, you know, Zelle and all the jewelry that it shows up on your feed, and it's 50% off. Diamond earrings today only, or, you know, Cyber Monday's coming, you know, every department store or even grocery store, to get a discount, you have to become some type of member, right? They entice you, hey, join this club, you know, get our emails. When it's your birthday, we'll give you a free coffee. But again, targeted marketing with consumerism as well, because you're going to get flooded with emails on deals. Right. So it's encouraging it encourages you to buy, or even the children, like the babies. Sometimes you don't want to deal with them. And you put the little educational shows on for them. You're on YouTube, handing them the phone. And even the baby is a victim to consumerism, because then the commercial comes and they're looking at kids playing with a toy. And now they're, toy, you know, and they're showing it. As a parent, you know, you love that child. You'll do anything to make them happy. So what do? You go to the store and you buy the toy. And that's what they're spending billions on. So they control the market and the industry as far as these advertising. And you know, it's hard. I'm so happy to be a person that got to grow up in times that, you know, computers were not around like that. I think that now they have a real handle on our social influence and our psychological. It's just going to be very hard to now in today's society not be a victim in some sort, because we grew up in times where we looked to celebrities. You don't look to celebrities that much anymore. Now there's this new profession called influencers. Like, we didn't have influencers. The influencer is supposed to be an everyday person. So they get paid by the advertisers now to, you know, promote a product, and all of a sudden we want it.
Right. No, that's huge. What you're saying is so right on point, because, you know, we in this is one of the times of the year that they flash a lot of those commercials in our face. So how much do we think that the holiday season plays in the role of making sure that the push people out there? We talk about Black Friday. People anticipate that. You know, it's almost like it's a day that you must go out and shop that day, because that's the only day any deal's going to be available for you. So everybody, you know, they're going out, they probably start shopping maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. They sitting in lines at stores this time in the morning. So how much we think like the holidays, like just having Halloween and you know, thinking about, you know, Thanksgiving. We just had they just had Thanksgiving, and Christmas is coming up. Yeah. So people are really engaged.
They've been promoting Christmas, I think, since September. I think it gets earlier and earlier every year.
Every year, right?
So to me, I think Christmas started in September. They certainly wanted you to start thinking about it.
But then they go back to the psychological part of it, because we're talking about the mindset around it. You walk into a store, what you hear, jingle bells, you hear, you know, all the things that say spin, 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 spin. So that type of music we've been used to in this country from a very early age all the way up until now. And to your point, and also Ezekiel's point, our children is what really push us and motivate us to do it. And if we're looking at, if we're saying we're looking at, I got a message from one of our listeners. I do want to open up the call, though.
Oh, some people want to join in, huh?
I do want to open up the call at this time, because we're talking about the mindset. We're going to be getting deeper into this. And I want people to be able to share. So if you want to just chime in on the conversation, by all means, you can unmute yourself. If you're on our Zoom platform, I think you hit *6, so you probably can just unmute yourself.
Oh, hello. This is Bruce Herring.
Well, how you doing, sir? Happy Sunday.
I'm fine. and you know, I love the conversation.
Yes,
because it deals with Black people in general.
Yes.
Because we're some of the greatest consumers that the world has ever known. But who teaches us financial responsibility, and when do we learn it?
There we go. Because consumerism could be perfect if it was done among each other.
Yeah.
Consumerism does boost economy, and it can boost the economy. We've boosted the economy. Let us, we spent about 1.3 trillion. If we learned to only spend half of that, we would bankrupt corporations around the world, not even just companies that are US based. People would go bankrupt behind that decision of Black people. So we have to understand that we are our own answer when it comes to building Black wealth. It's just about paying better attention to where those dollars are circulating.
That's key. Because I was going to say, what about redirecting those dollars?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing that we spend that money, all of it goes outside of our community. And I don't know, Bruce, was you finished with your thought, what you was sharing with us?
Okay, well, what I wanted to say, Jeremiah, is simply this, is that if we do not learn financial responsibility, then I don't care where we spend our money, even amongst ourselves. Then we're going to find ourselves always being broke. Somebody got to teach us about, okay, as we go through life and we start working, where do we put those dollars? My grandmother said, out of every dollar, save a dime. Because there will be sick days and rainy days. Okay, and so what I'm saying is that we talk about wealth, but wealth is within ourselves. Everything that we need to eat comes out of the store. I can remember the time my grandmother had chickens in the yard, so she got the chicken and she got the eggs. So we saved on that, and every neighbor had a fruit tree. And so we got mangoes, we got oranges, we got grapefruits. We got all kind of fruit every single day. And now you have to buy everything at the store, because in our yards we got the pretty hedges and we got the beautiful grass, but we have no gardens. We have nothing growing that's going to keep us out the store and put some money in our pocket so that we can use our money for investments. Now, when you talk about generational wealth, what is it that we're leaving one generation to the next? Okay, oftentimes it's our house. So if we're not taught to save enough so that we can have a down payment and get a good interest rate, and then be able to pay that mortgage off before you retire, and be able to leave it to the next generation so they'll have a foothold as other races do, and they will not start from the bottom. They will get a good education, they will go to college, they will learn a skill, or they will go to a technical school, and they will learn how to do things. And if my neighbor knows how to fix his car, and he comes over and fixes my car, and I know how to repair his toilet, then we can trade skills, we can save money, and we can circulate. I remember the time when the doctors, the lawyers, the engineers, everybody stayed in the same community. Now what have we done? We have divided ourselves up because we look for a better life outside of the community. We're one of the only races that do that, and we leave the power base, because once we are one of many, we have no power as far as selecting council people, selecting people who will be managing our government, or any of those other situations or jobs that we would like to have. We can't give each other certain things.
You said a lot right there. And when I'm sitting there listening to, go ahead, sir.
I'm through.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sitting there listening to you, and I'm trying to think of, even groups, or have this ever happened before, like within this country I'm talking about. I'm not talking about our history, our total history, but I'm talking about within this country. And when I think about it, I think about Black Wall Street, who had a lot of these things in place, in-house, established a lot of these, what you're talking about, Bruce. And then I go even further. We talk about the Nation of Islam. We talk about the Nation of Yahweh, up under the Most Honorable Yahweh. Well, there was an establishment in place where we was buying, hotels, and we was buying land and property, and we was creating that environment that we want to see as a people, a more ethical environment. But at the same time, we was able to pour back into ourselves and build a community. But we seen, some of the forces, those in higher places come against a lot of that type of stuff. It's like they want us to be in this mindset. They're
not ready for people of color to evolve and become the powerhouses, because that is what happens to us naturally as we build and become more successful. Genetically, we will always take over.
Right. I seen you step up, brother. Did you want to share something on that?
Correct. The brother asked the question about whose duty it is to teach financial literature to the future. That starts at home. The parents need to teach the child economics. You see that this system is not set up to teach you. Children graduate and have no concept of economics. So it has to start at home. Just like you teach them how to cook, how to walk, how to do everything else, you have to teach them how money works, how to save, how to invest. Because if they have no concept for that, then we're going to be like most street dudes, just blowing money fast as soon as we get it.
Which is something we have been able to teach. I mean, in defense for most people of color, most Black people, you can't teach what you don't know.
Correct.
Years ago, when we had a financial literacy program, and we taught it at the Winter Park Community Center, which Winter Park here in Orlando, the irony of that is they were one of the first communities I knew of to go through gentrification. And that's something for a later conversation, but we want to be mindful of gentrification because a lot of times that, we talk about the Black community. I don't know how many Black communities we will have because this country has a housing issue. And so with housing issues, that's why we see gentrification, happening because people have to live somewhere. So it's like, okay, well, this so-called what used to be mainly the white side of town is now too saturated. We can't even build another house over here if we want to. But the Black neighborhood that we built outside of the city, right? Because they always built us to be on the outside or on the outskirts, but still close by because we were more domestic workers. We were the ones, doing the cleaning and things. So we were always close enough to the rich side of town. So now our side of town is becoming the newest rich side of town. So we want to be mindful because I don't think that we're going to have a lot of, Black communities in the future. But going back to my point of the community center, wanted to teach and got a grant to teach from these folks, Black children, about finances and financial literacy, because we know that this isn't taught in the public school system. And with the students, when we would teach them about, understanding credit, what having a bank account is, FDIC, insurance and things of that nature. One of the things that these students would always tell me is, hey, my mom or my dad, they want to know, do you teach this for adults? Because they want to take a class too. And so it did help to shed light on an ever-growing problem that we have. No one taught us, about finances. All we've ever known is how to survive. And so that's what we've been passing down to the next generation. We overconsume, and then when we go into debt and can't pay a bill, now we got to operate on survival mode. And survival mode, we know, is what tends to lead to bad decisions.
Correct. And we live in the information age right now, so there's no reason why this knowledge cannot be it's easily accessible now. And it's mandatory because you need money to survive. You need money to thrive. And everybody, as you said, with the mindset that we have, we want the best of everything. So in order to be able to get that, we need to understand how to save our money. Just like the man said earlier about his grandmother taught him the law of saving 10%. It's no different than what the Mill y'all were teaching us. Pay the king and pay yourself first 10% and learn how to build up that wealth by not touching it so that you always have an emergency fund, because every day ain't going to be a sunny day. Catastrophes and disasters going to occur in your life. So you want to have some type of cushion to fall back on. So we definitely need to be able to get that going. But as you said, due to gentrification here in America over the last decade and the coming future, it's going to be hard because, as you can see, there's been an influx of all other nationalities into what has used to be the Black communities. So the hoods are evaporating. They're tearing down projects all over America. And they're just spreading us out wherever they decide to drop us off at. And since we don't have a community-based housing program that we run, we can't just uproot the people from one place to another. So they just being scattered to the four corners of America. And this is going to continue because we are not united. You know, we don't create our own hood type programs for our people because, as you said, we're not taking that money and pooling it into a national treasury to where it can benefit us as a whole. We're constantly having that consumer mentality that allowing the dollar to fly to our communities as quickly as it comes in.
Another thing, I think we don't talk about some of the things that contribute to like what has built and established America. When we talk about the trades, we just had the trade show with the youth. And that's one of the things that I think we have to be mindful of when it comes to raising our youth and instilling in them the values of our community to help, contribute and give back to that. One of the things I want, matter of fact, let me make sure that our listeners, anybody want to chime in, you can always unmute yourself, or I think it's a *6, but I think you just unmute yourself if you want to just chime in on the conversation. We're just talking about the mental or the psychological aspects of, consumerism and materialism and how we're so engaged in it. And it was brought up, from from a pro standpoint, when we talk about the pros and the cons. We have always loved the finer things in life, but it's just, and I think the powers that be understands that. And that's why, like what my brother say, they focus in, I think you said it as well. They target us as far as when it comes to advertisement, because they know all these type of things here. And then they know I spending power. So it's like, if they can get, 75, 80% of that, it helps build their communities. But when we continue to give outside of our community, it contributes to destroying our communities. That's why when you go into our communities, they don't look at us as good as other communities. If you go into another nationality community, so it's like we have to do better, and just understanding that we can contribute to that. We did do the financial literacy program. We did the computer literacy program. So those type of programs that we offer in our community, because like before gentrification, it was a lot of our youth and our people right there in that community where we gave a lot of those financial literacy classes and stuff. So we just have to be mindful of what we can do. And we talk about solutions on this program. We have to be mindful of what we can do to help contribute to that as well.
Another thing too about mindfulness is that we have to remember that we as a people have been studied. They have studied us since we got here. They have researched us. They know us better than we know us. We are still trying to figure ourselves out. They already know us. So we have to be mindful that we are also dealing with the great puppeteer. Anytime we become, a little too knowledgeable, anytime someone becomes a little too influential to a point that it can, build us up and disrupt us, then a smear campaign tends to happen. They're very good at knowing how to infiltrate to disseminate. So we have to be educational on that aspect too, so that we can educate on the importance of building and spending Black dollars. We have to shift that mindset, and it's correct. It has to start at home. It has to slowly start to trickle in, because if one of us continues to do it, or very few of us, that's how it always kind of gets destroyed, because it needs to be several of us.
Indeed.
Correct. You have to do that on a mass level, but it's a snowball effect. If 1, 2, or 3 begin to do it, then we begin to spread. We begin to multiply, and once we begin to multiply, then we just begin to get larger and larger and larger. So when we have a great mass of people with this knowledge right here, then as the book says, you become unstoppable. You have a mindset to where whatever you you choose to accomplish, you can, because you have a multitude of minds working toward the same goal. So we have to have something now to where we can start. We identifying the problem. Now we have to be able to implement a solution to overcome that right there, because this is one of the things that's systematically eradicating our communities. This is what allowing gentrification to come into the communities, because we don't have the necessary resources to fight it off. If we had our own money, if we had enough leaders to be able to espouse this type of information right here, then when they try to character assassinate one of them, we'll have 2 or 3 waiting in the wings to take his place. So this is what we got to focus on, because as they study us, logic only dictate we have to study them.
Absolutely.
When we look at their history and understand how they attack, we have to develop our own stratagems to be able to combat that right there, because we are at war. That's what we seem to fail to realize. This is a war. And right now we're speaking about an economic war, and we are losing this war badly. So we need more generals. We need more leaders. We need more commanders to be able to speak to the people and turn them into generals. We don't need to turn them into followers. We need to create more generals. That way we can work by the multiplication instead of the addition. And if we don't do this on a faster scale, then as I said, pretty soon there will be no more of our communities. We'll just be scattered throughout America with consumerism mentality until we grow.
And another thing too I wanted to bring up is sustainability, right? Because we have to have more conversations when it comes to sustainability in terms of consumerism. You know, how many bottles of perfume do you need? You know, you haven't even finished the one perfume. Yes, I'm talking to myself.
Stop talking about me too.
But you got all these perfumes, and you know, how many purses do you need? You know, it's like you nearly wear the same purse every day, but you got about 50 purses in the closet. And let's not even talk about shoes. Let's not talk about shoes. But let's talk about it. So we have to be real with ourselves and kind of understanding sustainability, because one habit of the wealthy is that they are very good when understanding sustainability. This is why, I mean, it used to be that the wealthiest person would have the, you know, most plain and like dirty sneakers, because they believed in using those shoes until it wasn't needed anymore. Now it's become a fashion. Now they're selling used looking sneakers, Balenciagas, and those cost $3,000. Like you're buying a dirty looking shoe, but somehow it became fashionable. But it didn't start off that way. It came from the conscious mind of learning how, you know, to sustain. Or they'd say, you know, a wealthy person that wears nearly the same looking white t-shirt, and it's because they own 5 white t-shirts, and they own about 2 pairs of jeans, and they're happy with going through the week that way, in that fashion sense. But we tend to, you know, not follow that type of blueprint. We want more.
But the whole, I mean, the old saying, I think it's probably still a saying, you know, you fake it until you make it. So you over, you know, consume and get in debt so that you can make it. That's the mindset. You know, buy more, look better. You can't afford it, but at least you look up to par, you know, and that has been something that I think has backfired on a lot of us when it comes to that, because you find people like what you just said. We know they got money. They put their money, they invest in things of value, not things that depreciate, but things that appreciate. So if you find a person like that, they have a nice house, they have a nice bank account, probably got money in stocks, and they know how to work it, you know. But for those that fake it till they make it, they got a BMW, barely paying on it, a Beamer, can barely afford it, and they're struggling because they're trying to fake it until they
Yeah.
make it. And that don't always work for us, but that's how we overconsume as well. And I have somebody that's unmuted, so I let audience chime in. Caller that got their line unmuted, you can go right ahead.
Jeremiah, I was thinking, when I started talking about growing vegetables and trees in your yard, one time we used to do that, in the neighborhood. Everybody had something that they were growing in the yard, and the children would go from yard to yard because they wouldn't get no lunch. They would just eat the fruit and the coconuts and the oranges and almonds, all those things. But take for instance, if we want to control our destiny, say we want to control our destiny. Say if everybody in the neighborhood, take just one block, everybody on both sides of the block grew one type of vegetable or had one tree, and each person had something different. And when you got ready for a meal, you just go to your neighbor and get enough just to feed your family for that night. Go straight on down the street. And they did the same thing. How often would we be in the grocery stores saving money on stuff that we already had? Before canker came out, everybody had an orange tree or some kind of fruit tree or citrus tree in their yard. But when canker came, they said, oh, these trees are no good. So they took all of them up. And now we're in the grocery store buying what we used to have in our yard. So all I'm saying is that, look, one of the things Riviera Beach has done, they have a community garden on almost an acre of land, pretty close to an acre. And what they do, they can teach anybody in the neighborhood that wants to come and learn how to grow some things or what they need to do in order to make the soil viable so that you can grow various vegetables. They can come over and they can get even some of the plants, and so that they can plant in their yard. If this is saving money, this is being cost effective. I know we all want to look good to everybody, and so we want to go out and buy the big cars, buy the big houses. But what are we doing with the yards that we have? Most people have a lot of land, but they don't do anything with it. They put a whole lot of grass there, a whole lot of plants that you can't eat. And then they say, oh, come neighbor, look at me. Okay, after you get through, you're hungry and you're starving. So you have to run over to Sam's or run over to Walmart's, run over to Publix, run over to Winn-Dixie, and spend the little money you have buying stuff that you could have had in your yard, and you could have saved that and invest that and buy more land, or you could buy more houses or more apartments.
Yeah.
And
I know that's been my shit.
The wealth would generate
if I can't eat it, don't grow it in my yard. I don't want no tree I can't eat from.
and that should be our goal. The little things. I mean, we on a podcast. We talking to each other. We sharing ideas. Okay, we are strong. We are unified, and we have knowledge. And this knowledge should be spread freely. And next thing we know, everybody got a garden. Everybody got a garden. And how well do you know your neighbors? See, you probably don't even know your neighbor. You may know them 2 houses down and 2 houses across the street. But you don't know the guy on the whole block, everybody on the whole block. But if you had something to entice a conversation, then he'd come over and get a mango off your tree. Say, oh man, your mangoes were very good. Try some of my oranges.
Absolutely.
And then look here, this conversation.
Being a child getting in trouble for going in the neighbor's yard. He's taking the fruit off the tree.
Well, it's the thing, whereas you're getting to know each other and you find out what you need. And the people that represent you in government comes from your neighborhood. That's your neighbor. That's maybe your son, your daughter. And then you know everybody, they know you, and you know what is needed in that neighborhood, so you don't go and build a whole lot of fire stations.
Yeah. And
we're not working in the fire station.
Yeah, and I love it. I don't mean to cut you off, but I like that you're really giving one of the examples on how we can work to improve consumerism, and that is by minimalism. So you're giving us, which we appreciate, because that's how we we were going to try to wrap up the show on one of the caveats on how we can balance from consumerism. And so that minimalism, having a garden, growing your own food so that you're not spending or even overspending on, produce and things of that nature is a way to balance from consumerism, which is perfect.
Yeah. And it's like what Bruce is saying, like connecting with those, because you have people within our community. We met some people within the community. They actually grow, natural, organic foods. And if you're not doing it yourself, connect with somebody that's actually doing it so that you can support and keep them going, because it does take a lot of work to keep, to grow food. It takes a lot of work. And one of the things I know with us and a lot of people that I know, if you're working every day, sometimes it can be challenging to try to make sure that you keep up with the garden. But if you have people, like I mentioned, that's in your community, those that maybe retire, we just got a neighbor now just retired. So those are the people that you want to invest in to make sure that we can have foods available.
Or my stepfather, he's always a perfect example. He's my favorite
as well.
Because as soon as he retired, his hobby was, he remembered his childhood. He grew up on a farm. And at first, he only intended on growing a few things. But now the entire backyard is like a forest of food, is what I'll say, from the banana trees, the papaya trees, the mango trees, the avocado trees, orange trees, lemon trees, lime trees. They grow their own spinach. They grow their own beans. They just added, black eyed peas to the garden. So it's just like, they grow corn back there. They've grown potatoes, sweet potatoes. I've had fresh broccoli. I've had cabbage. I've had green peppers. I'm just like, I'm naming every produce you can think of. But I promise it seems like my mother and my stepfather have grown literally every produce you can think of. And so it's always a joy to go to their house. Because there's always something to eat. And the beauty of it is it was freshly grown. We know that it's free of pesticides, and it's the true definition of organic. Like, organic truly isn't always organic, but, and then because they're growing so much and they have that surplus, they don't just, give it away. They've gone back to understanding how to, can, how to save, how to dry freeze, and then they sell it. They sell their produce to the local markets, which was nice because then I got to understand that a lot of the produce that you buy from the smaller markets come from all the local growers. So, all the food is truly great quality and better than what you're going to find at the grocery store, and for less. So, you've won twice, but still great examples of minimalism as a solution. When we were also discussing consumerism, I actually had a story I wanted to share in regards to my youngest son, because we were talking about how no one is exempt from consumerism. And so for, his birthday, because of course, as a parent, we know we tend to spoil. I am not exempt from that. So purchase these shoes, for his favorite basketball player, LeBron James. And I think those shoes were, we're going to round them up to close to $200. And then brought him another pair of shoes for maybe $40, $45. And noticed that he wore the $45 shoes nearly every day, like wore the soles off those shoes. But the other shoes that we brought, I could probably say I only saw that child wear them shoes like twice. And then I noticed that, this child never wears any of their basketball shoes. And those are the most expensive shoes. They always tend to wear the more plain shoes. And he said, well, Mom, you can only wear basketball shoes when you're actually playing basketball. And it's like, who told you that lie? Because I have to remember that because you don't play basketball that much. And apparently you don't play basketball enough for me to have made the mistake to spend all that money on some shoes that apparently you don't even intend on wearing. So when it comes to consumerism, we want to be mindful of our children because they fall victim to this too. And, they'll have us caught up in some mess over those poor decisions. Because I looked at my son like, son, you better be your own person. I don't care what them kids say. And you know that you're not broke.
Right. Now, this goes back to one of the callers, and I want to read what came through in the chat. He said, the kids these days don't value money because parents be quick to send money on Cash App or Uber Eats. They don't know how to go fix a sandwich or grilled cheese. Kids don't understand money at all. I see it every day. If they have $20 to spending, they're spending it all because mom will send more if they need it. Parents have a guilt trip.
Absolutely.
Thinking because they did not have everything, they do anything to make sure the kids have it, even if they barely have it. And I think that's true. I love that example because it is true.
When we had our franchise, we were a part of the problem, I'll say. Yeah. We were part of the problem because in this big chain, I won't say the name of the chain because, hey, we're just a small podcast. We don't want anybody coming for us. This might blow up. But in this chain, they were focused on targeting the poor Black community. And they would do that by saying, hey, we know that after Christmas, it's tax time. And during tax time is when, you will likely receive these huge refunds. Not because you did anything special, but because you were basically, a working person. You had a family to support and you're considered a low wage earner. So instead of empowering, it's basically being taken for granted because it's, hey, we know you want some Christmas money. So we're going to advance you on some of that refund. Now, your interest rate is going to be about 35% on the money that we loan you. But, don't worry because it's just short term. It's going to be a few months. But, hey, even in those few months, the bank basically made about a good $400 or $500 unless the IRS for some reason delayed that refund. Then the interest rate could even be higher than that. And to have to watch people, run into our place of business, desperate to get their hands on this money that they knew that they were going to blow because what were their intentions? To buy Christmas gifts. And so if they, for whatever reason, were not approved for the loan, the look of disappointment, literally you've had to console people that were crying all because they didn't get approved for money that they were going to spend on, nothing on. It wasn't going to empower, but it was just, for the sake of the children who were probably going to break those toys the same week that they got it. Some parents complain that the children broke the toys the same day of Christmas. But that's not the right type of consumer that we want to be. And I remember having those conversations to say, as a parent, don't you think you're setting the wrong example of what Christmas should be? Why does it have to be about you buying stuff for your children? Why can't it be that it's a holiday made for the family? Or why don't you have just a 1 or 2 gift rule? Why do you feel that each child needs to have 5 things and you're now going into debt and you're stressing yourself out that you're willing to take a loan that these sharks are willing to charge you 35% of your money. So by the time you file, a good amount of your money is already gone. Mm-hmm. That's not building wealth, which is why I could not be a part of something that impoverished our people even more. We could no longer take parts in those types of tactics.
Yeah. The things that we do now has to be of some type of value. We get in debt. Well, we go all throughout the year trying to get out of debt just to get into debt again at this time of the year. And you brought up something that was so key to everything that we're talking about. And when you're talking about, making sure that that child has a gift, how many parents out there that want to see their child happy, regardless of what the notion is behind Christmas, with being naughty or nice, and if you get the child ain't probably got straight ups all year, but you still dedicated and obligated. You feel dedicated and obligated to make sure that that child has a gift. And even if you don't have it, you're robbing still from somebody to get it. And that's the other side of it, because crime goes up at this time of the year. Crime is at its highest around this time of the year, but because of that reason, we don't care. We'll look within the next man that goes out there and work hard for them, for himself and his family, bring gifts home, and we'll sit there and watch him and go in there and break in his house and steal all this stuff.
Yeah, and the psychology of that is wild, right? As the example the man gave, you grew up poor. Technically, you're still poor, and you're raising poor children, but you're making poor decisions on trying to buy them stuff to make up for you growing up poor, not realizing you're still poor. What are you talking about? Like, oh, I'm going to try to make okay, but now you're broke. And you can't even pawn that thing. And if you do, or if you can pawn it, the slap in the faces, they're only going to give you 30% of what you spent your money on. So now you're getting a little bit of money, and you're back to square one.
Right.
But it's just, I don't think that we ever take the time to really understand, the words that are coming out of our mouths when we try to justify going into further debt, for our children. Oh, I grew up this way. Okay, well, how has your life improved?
Right. It's the emotion behind it. Like we get emotionally attached, and we are not mindful. One of the words that we talked about, that we have been throwing around a lot. We're not mindful of some of the actions, some of the things that we do, and I think we need to become conscious of that. I oftentimes say, and I think somebody said it when you talk about, and I think Ezekiel had mentioned it, when you talk about 1 and 2 year olds, I always say, me, my mindset, that child don't know he got a birthday coming. Like, you tell him he got a birthday coming. You go out there and spend all this money on a birthday. Why you? And it's like we get so depressed behind this. It's like, if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. Don't go out there trying to get a loan. Like you say, 30% interest. It don't even make no sense. Like, really? And that's the type of debt that we get into, that we try to get out all year long just to get back in it at this time of the year. And we're going to go to a quick commercial break. One of the things that we talk about on this show, we talk about solutions, right? And we talk about how we spend our money outside of the community. As you can see on the screen, you'll see shop today and save at the NOI store. It may not be everything that you may want,
right?
But you can shop at the NOI store. We will. It'll be much appreciated if you do so. You can get toothpaste there. We got the all natural toothpaste. So make sure you stop by there. Just, stop in there and check us out. We'll be right back.
What do all these people have in common besides a beautiful smile, healthy teeth, and gums? They all use Zadi toothpaste. Zadi toothpaste is made with all natural ingredients. Zadi toothpaste is fortified with moringa and baking soda. Zadi toothpaste is suds-free, making it an excellent choice for kids. All natural, fortified, and suds-free. Get yours today at noistore.com.
All right, so make sure you check us out. Go to the noistore.com. You can get all natural toothpaste there. There are other items that we have as well, branded items, and it is made for us by us. Right. But we come to the part where we're gonna start talking about some solutions. Like what can we do, considering it's just so much that's going on. There's so much that I had here when it comes to the cultural how it affects us in our community, the community values, our relationships. Because we talk about, if we have a financial problem as husband and wife, because we want to spend this much money, and maybe the wife don't want to spend that much money because she can see she's financially, responsible, and the husband may not be financially responsible, or vice versa. We have those type of clashes when it comes to relationships. So there's so many different variables when it comes to consumerism, and us as a people. And I put us at the forefront only because we don't actually, like you said, when we open up, you said we all are consumers. I'm talking about every nation, every race, nationality. We all are consumers. It's just that we make up about 13 or 14% in this country, and we spend, when you look at how much we spend, a majority of all the money that we spend goes outside of our community. That's when it becomes a problem. It's something that we have to talk about and coming up with solutions to that. So that's what I want to talk about a little bit. And I got somebody, I thought I had somebody on mute. I heard something. But if not, if you want to come offline and just, talk about so we're going to get into some solutions right now. And Brother Yikiziki, I'm going to let you probably start off, and then we'll just kind of toss it around the room.
I think like I said earlier, it starts at home. We have to create a value system that shows that, hey, everybody has to live, or you need products. Logic dictate you can't create every product that you need. So you're going to have to become a consumer in some form of fashion. But we have to have a value system to show how we become a consumer. As she said, do we go out and get the $200 LeBron that we wear once a month? Or do we go out and get the $45 shoes that's on a daily basis? And we show why we purchased the 45 as opposed to the 200, because of what it's doing for us, the value that we're getting out of this on a regular basis. So we have to start teaching a system of values at home. And as she said earlier, if the parents lack that particular knowledge, then we have to come up with, as y'all said y'all had earlier, a community thing. So when these communities are getting together at the town hall, having meetings about which streets get lights or potholes get fixed, these are conversations that need to be had amongst the people that are living in the poor communities that have the consumer mindset. They have to want and have a desire to get better at this right here. So the only solution is the parents got to begin to educate themselves. And as I said earlier, we live in the information age. Nobody goes anywhere without their phone. So that's the easiest place to start getting this information to better your condition so that you can learn economics and learn how to pass that wealth on to your children in the form of knowledge, which is facts and information that you can acquire. And that will begin to eradicate a lot of the problems that are plaguing us and make us consumers instead of producers. So we have to start educating ourselves, ones as adults, and then passing that same knowledge on to our children, because our children emulate what they see. And if they see in us with the latest fact, even though we living in the projects, then that's what they're going to begin to want. That's the melody that they're going to hear, and that's what they're going to dance to. And so everybody's going to become, every generation, the welfare queens. Because they don't want better.
And one bit of advice, because of the success of it, 2 board games that I absolutely love. One is now a digital version. And when I would go out to eat a lot with the boys when they were small on nights that I didn't want to cook, a lot of times we stayed at the restaurant longer because we refused to leave until one of us win. And that's because what I like to play with our children, and you can play, I actually said I'm going to start playing with my grandchildren as well, because they're getting old enough and we want that psychologically. That psyche to go in their mind is Monopoly. I love Monopoly. Monopoly is one of the best games ever created. It really is. and the game of life. Now, the digital version of the game of life is just amazing because you're going through this game from, when you're just starting out. It's designed to be, hey, you're going to decide to go to college or get a trade, buy a home, rent. You're going through the whole game of life up until retirement. And the one that retires with the most wealth wins. Or just like with Monopoly, the one that has the most wealth at the end, that's who wins the game. And so the kids, after a while with playing, they understood the power of, buying land and, owning homes and, they're more conscious and have an understanding of, so this is what it meant to take out a mortgage and things of that nature. So we're playing a game to win, but they are getting educated so much. And, I used to even laugh at my now 15-year-old that, he's like 7 and 8, like, yeah, when I'm big, I'm gonna make sure I buy a lot of houses. And it's like, I know that's right, son. That's why I'm sitting here playing these games with you, because that's the kind of mindset that we need you to have. And so I suggest, you don't have to always know everything. Sometimes it starts with just the little things, because even as an adult, I feel like even myself playing the game of life and playing Monopoly, it still benefits me. And truth be told, I didn't even like that game that much when I was smaller, but I loved it as I got older. And I'm just happy that my boys, they loved it automatically, because I used to think the game took too long for a winner to happen. But, but that's just my advice on a small thing that you can do to bring about a great solution so that we can just get better educated on finances and understanding money and how money works.
I have people that's, and you do it as well, that teachers. In fact, I have like one on right now. When we talk about like certain things that we have a lot of knowledge, a lot of individuals that I have listened to on this call. There's a lot of information and knowledge that can be shared, and our youth need that information. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we do, even as MOP, we committed ourselves to making sure that our youth was educated on our history, understanding the richness of our history, and of course that we had wealth, but also understanding giving back to your community. Mm-hmm. And what that looks like. So when you go out there in your community and you begin to pick up trash and beautify your community, that's giving back to your community.
Absolutely.
Because we have to put the energy and effort into it as well. But it even go further. We when it comes to youth basketball, I remember doing youth basketball and football in the community. And we had the computer store right in the community. And I oftentimes tell people, you want to give, the reason you want to do business with me is because when you do business with me, we benefit the community, because that goes into the community. When you spend your money outside of the community, you hurt not only my business, but you hurt a young man or a young girl mm-hmm. that, want to do better for themselves. And it costs parents money to get in these programs.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you have sponsors that can sponsor these programs, that's important. That's so important to, our growth as a community. So it's things like that we can begin to contribute to. And then at the same time, be mindful of your spending habits. Mm-hmm. If you're going to spend some money, we're going to be talking about Kwanzaa coming up.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about the values of that. But when you spend your money, if you're going to get a child something, get something that's worth value. I often tell my grandchildren, you got something, it's going into your bank. You know what I'm saying? Or it may go into your account. But no, you may not see it right now. And maybe you don't understand it right now. But if I give in to you, then you're not going to have anything as you get older. Mm-hmm. I'm following the same tradition and culture that we have always followed. I'm first generation everything.
Right.
When you become first generation everything, Absolutely. You have to be very conscious of mm-hmm. how you handle your money. You have to be mm-hmm. very conscious of where your money goes towards, because if you're not, it don't mean anything.
Absolutely. And, even psychologically, because we know with consumerism, it's in everything. So I give myself a rule, a cart rule, and maybe someone can benefit from that. Yes, because I do a lot of online shopping. I do. So anytime that cart is a little pricey, or, maybe they've enticed me with the newest, latest, and greatest of anything, but, the price tag on it is, on a higher side. I always tell myself, hey, just because you can afford something doesn't mean you need something. Mm. And so I always give myself a rule that, hey, it's okay to put it in the cart, but I'm not allowed to buy that particular thing the same day it showed up on my feed. I always try to give myself a few days to decide on it. And the good thing about that is that usually advertisers, they get you with that first price. And if you don't respond, they're going to send you a coupon. So you can get it at a discount, which is going to help save money. And that's what you would want to do. Or you at least psychologically gave yourself an opportunity to talk yourself out of a poor overspending habit or overindulging. Because now, it's created to help or force us to kind of overindulge. So we're guilty of that. So psychologically, one of the things that you can also do, in addition to trying to spend your money in better places to boost the economy, boost your environment and your community, or boost, us as a people as a whole. If you find yourself tempted to buy things outside of community, at least have some type of waiting or holding period before you make that decision. That way, psychologically, you've given yourself an opportunity to not buy off of impulse. And hopefully you'll make a better decision and you won't feel guilty. If anything, you'll feel better that, I'm so happy I didn't buy that thing. Right. You don't want buyer's remorse, because a lot of times that's what we're guilty of too.
No, that's true. Yeah. Any last words? I want to make sure that I give our listeners an opportunity to just chime in, because we at the end of the show. So if any last words you want to chime in on, by all means, this is the time to do so. And if not, I will leave the last words to you two, and we'll get ready to close out.
Well, as I shared being Miss Finance Pro, I know I can be very long-winded. So I'm going to first pass it on to our brother. You can see you'll give him the opportunity to participate.
No doubt. We, like you said, the key is becoming conscious of your spending habits. So I think one of the first things people need to do is keep a budget. And when you create a budget, you can see the money that's coming in and you can see the money that's going out. And you'll be able to realize that some of the money that's going out may not be on things that's of value. And then you can begin to extricate those particular products from your shopping list, which will allow you to now have money to save, which will lead to you having money to invest in later. Because if you don't do that right there, and you're back to just blowing money fast, and it's going to keep you in debt, and you're going to stay on that cycle to where you're going to live right at or below the poverty line, even though you got rich desires, because your desire is going to always outweigh your wealth. So in order to reach an economic point that you wish to be at, then you have to start budgeting. That's the number one thing that people need to do. So that's what I would advise everybody to do. Begin to budget so you can see where your household expenses are going at and begin to create your wealth.
All right.
I love it. YNAB. That was actually what I was going to say to end it. So that's perfect. We were right on the same page with that. Because I always use that, YNAB. You need a budget. I mean, we don't hear this term, and I think because of technology. I remember growing up where the banks always would encourage parents. My mom, she always participated in the Christmas club. That's what they literally called it. And so anytime she'd go to the bank to deposit her paycheck, which, now we have direct deposit, but when she put her paycheck, she could let the teller know how much money she wanted to go into the Christmas Club account. And I think back in those days, you could put a small amount in, up to $25 when you come. But, people should still do that. We know that folks are going to participate, when it comes to the holidays, but at least budget for that. Don't spend what you don't have. Spend what you do have and stay with it. If it's not in your budget, you can't afford it. That's what I always say. And then a part of your budget should always include a saving plan, because you always have to save and be prepared for a rainy day.
Right. I just want to say I want to thank you, Ms. Finance Pro, and I want to thank you too, Brother Yika, for just coming again on to the show and just being a part of the show. Y'all can do better than that. But thank you again for coming to the show. I want to thank the audience, those that on YouTube. I want to thank those that came in on matter of fact, I had some people want to join in. I had more people want to join in on this show. And they just
we will have to have a part two. So join us on that Kwanzaa conversation.
Yeah, we have to we will be back.
We'll talk about spending.
And we're gonna get deep. Yeah, we're gonna get deeper into this. But I want to share this. I want to leave everybody with this. And it's Proverbs 21:20. And in Proverbs 21:20 it says, "There is treasure to be desired in order and dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spends it up." Now, when I reflect on that, we have a lot of treasure. When we talk about the spending the $1.8 trillion of spending power, we have a lot of treasure. But we have to learn how to save and apply it wisely to our affairs, especially to ourselves first, our family, and to our community as a whole. And I like the fact that both of y'all touched on budgeting, because that's something that we oftentimes do not. We do not care for. Let me rephrase. It ain't the point that we do not care for it. We are emotionally engaged into these holidays, so budgeting is not one of the things that we're thinking about at that time. So we need to become more conscious of that. And if we become more conscious of that, we'll choose to spend our money more wisely. So I leave everybody with that, and I say from the host, peace and prosperity, and I have to say from Live Talk, we are out. We are out. So for family that came in at the last moment, catch us definitely next week. Well, not next week, the week after. We'll be talking about something similar to what we're talking about today. We'll be talking about, of course, consumerism and the fashion and how it applies to Kwanzaa and the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. So again, I appreciate you guys, and just stay tuned and stay in touch. Till next time, peace and prosperity. We out. Thank you for watching Live Talk. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Talk Orlando. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit on the notification button so that you can see more videos like this. If you want to join the show, email us at livetalkorl@gmail.com. You can also follow the host on Facebook and Instagram at Arthur Jeremiah. And visit the website, thenoystore.com, to pick up your copy of The Spiritual Significance of a Name.